All right. Well, it is a wonderful Tuesday morning, and it looks like we're leveling out on our attendees. My name is Brian Sabina. I'm the Chief Economic Growth Officer here at the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Very excited to have you all on for a really important and timely session today. I'm going to kick it off by inviting Tim Sullivan, NJEDA's CEO, to say a few words. We'll follow that with some remarks from the governor's office, and then we'll kind of dig into the agenda.
Hey folks, good morning. Tim Sullivan here. On behalf of Governor Murphy and our entire administration, first of all, I want to welcome everyone to this conversation and underscore how important this exercise is and how excited we are about the consortia that have come together around the Build Back Better regional challenge. I think this is a really smart component of President Biden's recovery strategy to not just build back, but of course, build back better. And it fits 100% harmoniously with how Governor Murphy's been thinking about economic development, from the get-go of his administration. We're coming up on the 3-year anniversary of the release of the governor's economic development strategy back on October 1st of 2018. Among the many things that are included in that plan were a really strong focus on strategic sector development. And we've got, depending on how you count, somewhere between 4 and 6 of those strategic sectors represented among the consortia that have brought forward ideas for how to approach the US EDA process here that I think are really strong potential job creation engines, and also really important regional recovery strategies. The good news is, again, that this is not starting from scratch. We're not sort of starting from square one. All of you who are in the all-star group of institutions that are leading these and participating in these consortia have been thinking about this and working on this, and in some cases building buildings and building projects for years and years and years. And so that's, I think, puts us in really good stead. I would say that the realistic dimension of this is going to be a process that's competitive as hell. We've got 4 really great ideas from New Jersey. There are sadly 50 other states, and I don't know how many they're all going to put forward, but there are more good ideas than there are awards. But this is there's a pot of gold at the end of this rainbow that is pretty sizable and worth doing the work. And I'm optimistic too that even, my guess is that all 4 of these won't end up getting the big full federal prize, but we'll be better for having gone through this exercise irrespective of that, because we'll sharpen our thinking. We'll bring new partners together. We will cross-collaborate. We will identify opportunities for how state support can plug into things. So this will make us a better, stronger state economy in any sense. And then hopefully, we, not to be unduly crass about it, we'll get a bunch of federal money at the end of it and build some great projects and do some great stuff. So appreciate the work that's gone in, appreciate the work from our team at the EDA, but most importantly, the work from our partners in higher ed and county and local government and groups like the ACEA, which is a great partner in all this, to advance really important strategic imperatives here for how we can build stronger industry clusters, stronger sector clusters in 4 really important sectors. So with that, I'll yield the floor over to my friend and colleague, Jeffrey Oakman from the governor's office. He'll say a couple words, and then most importantly, hear from the consortia.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Tim, and very much echo your thoughts. On the value of this both for winning when we win the competition and for if we don't. I mean, the effort is important, and I want to welcome everybody. As well, on behalf of the governor, a big thank you to all the partners who are here participating in these grant applications, and particularly those who are stepping up to kind of lead these consortia. As Tim mentioned, the governor's economic plan, it laid out a vision for making New Jersey the state of innovation, and I think that this Build Back Better regional challenge is really a tailor-made opportunity for us to really advance that vision. While investing in the economic recovery that's so important. So thanks to EDA, Tim and your team for all the great work in facilitating this and bringing us together. Thanks everybody for being here this morning. And I'll hand it off to Brian Sabina to get us started.
Thank you so much, Jeffrey. I don't know if, can folks see the slides? I've lost some of my screen, but.
There we go.
Okay. So maybe we can jump straight to the agenda. So slide 3. Just a quick update about what we'd like to do is I'll spend a little bit of time talking about the different aspects of the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. Many of you are familiar with that program, but for those who aren't, we'll ground a little bit in what the context is. And then we'll spend the majority of our time hearing from the 4 coalitions that NJEDA and the governor's office is going to be working with as part of this effort, starting with our Smart Support Coalition led by the City of Newark and NJIT. Our Aviation Coalition will bat second, led by Atlantic County Economic Alliance and the county. Third will be biomanufacturing, led by Rutgers University and a phenomenal coalition of entities, groups around Middlesex County and across the state. And then last but not least, we'll hear from our Clean Energy Coalition, which is being led by Rowan, which really is a patchwork and a web of all of our institutions across the state, which very much aligns with the states and the Governor Murphy's approach towards clean energy. Why don't we get started? We can go to the next slide. Those of you who follow economic development may have heard about the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. It is part of a broader US EDA federal program that's worth $3 billion as part of the American Rescue Plan funding. That $3 billion covers the Build Back Better Regional Challenge, but also a Good Jobs Challenge, economic adjustment assistance, which is often to help communities transition to new types of industries. There's statewide planning and research and network grants. There are travel and tourism grants. There's funding for Indigenous communities, funding for coal communities. The governor's office is coordinating the state's efforts across all of those different areas to try to make sure that we're maximizing the amount of federal funding we're getting here into the Garden State. NJEDA is focused heavily on the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. It's the largest pool of funding out of the $3 billion. It's a $1 billion program. And it's really focused on how do we create new high quality jobs, increase wages, revitalize communities that have been impacted by COVID. And if you read the brief, and there's a fairly detailed NOFO and lots of guidance out on this, it starts with how do we identify regional coalitions that's led by a single entity, but really is made up of a partnership of entities that are focused on growing an industry cluster. And that industry cluster should be focused. It should be aligned with the competitive strengths of the region. And within that industry cluster, the US EDA is looking for between 3 and 8 different types of projects. And each one of those projects can be a different aspect of what will help build a really strong regional industry cluster. They're looking for transformational impact. So this is not funding to continue operations of an existing effort. It's funding to think comprehensively and broadly and boldly around how do we drive economic development in partnership with the private sector, the public sector, our academic sphere, our workforce partners in a way that can reshape our trajectories. They're also looking, and I would be remiss without calling this out, core to President Biden's administration's view around economic development is making sure that we are providing opportunities for those who have been historically disadvantaged, whether those are urban communities or rural communities, and making sure that we think about strong middle-class jobs, often which are tied into union opportunities. So those are all things that have been highlighted by the federal administration as we start to think about this moving forward. A little bit on the timeline, and we can go to the next slide. Structurally, this program is broken up into 2 different phases. So there's a phase 1. That phase has applications due October 19th, which is, I think I saw one popular press story is light speed for the federal government, given that this was announced about a month ago. And that phase 1 is really about getting narrowed down to a set of 50 to 60 projects across the country that will receive $500,000 planning and technical assistance money. That's 100% US EDA money, of course, can be matched by states, and we're in conversations with the 4 coalitions you'll hear from today about that. But that funding is really meant to say, let's narrow down to a great set of projects, and the federal government is looking to fund the development of those projects to make sure by the time we get to phase 2, where applications are due in March, that we have really good, tight, ready to roll projects. And the prize that I think we're all thinking about across all the coalitions is when we get to phase two, the 20 to 30 winners will get between 25 million to 100 million to help drive implementation of their projects. And at that point, USEDA is looking to fund 80 to 100% of the funding. We know that to be competitive, we're going to be looking to our coalition partners, to the state, elsewhere, to find sources to help match and lever up that effort. We feel excited because this is very much in line with, as Tim said, with how we're already approaching economic development and how Governor Murphy is thinking about our recovery plan for the state more broadly. So we're very excited that the Biden administration has put out this challenge. I think we can move forward. We mentioned that there are 4 coalitions on the next slide that we've decided to work with. We've had numerous conversations, and there are far more than 4 coalitions that are thinking about coming together for the Build Back Better Regional Challenge. But as Tim said, back in 2018, we had put out a stronger and fair economic development plan and a vision for where we should be going as a state that included 9 focus sectors. One of those sectors was smart transportation, logistics, and infrastructure. New Jersey is a logistics state, and the governor has often talked about the importance of the innovation of the infrastructure economy. So the smart ports and aviation innovation coalitions are doing phenomenal, specific, impactful work tied to that focus sector and very much playing to our strengths. The third coalition, biomanufacturing, has been a historical strength of the state for a long time, and it's something where there's tremendous opportunity for new innovation. And we are already, through Rutgers, through NJEDA, other entities across the state, through our private sector partners leading that innovation. This project is about how do we double down on that effort and make sure that we are making the investments and have the comprehensive vision needed to continue our leadership, because we have a heck of a lot of competition across the country for that cluster. And then the fourth is very much tied to clean energy, which is core to Governor Murphy's vision for what New Jersey can and should be moving forward. And that effort obviously is anchored in a few different subsectors. Offshore wind is one of them. Grid modernization is another. Electric vehicle, the transformation we're seeing there is a third. So Rowan University, especially with their ties into the southern part of our state, will be leading the Clean Energy Coalition on behalf of the state. I'm about to stop talking, but many of you hopefully have project ideas or would like to engage with these coalitions. What we've done is, just to make it a little bit easier, we've created an easy email address. If you have ideas either on projects or on interest in joining a potential coalition, either as a core member or as a supporter, as a partner, feel free to reach out to any of these email addresses. Our team is monitoring those and can get you connected in with the right folks on each of those lead applicants and the rest of the entities who are working on those coalitions. If you do have a project idea, please share it in a page of a one-form, quick narrative. I think the whole application, the body of it is 5 pages for the whole first round. So it's important to be brief and sharp and short. And if you are interested, we suggest that you have about a week to shoot us an email. We're looking for answers by noon on September 28th. We'll put this information back up again at the end. But without further ado, I want to get into our presentations. And we're very privileged and excited today to be joined by Mayor Ras Baraka and Joel Bloom from Newark and from NJIT. Mayor Baraka is an absolute champion of the people of Newark, of the economy of Newark, our largest state, and of the greater Newark region. He's committed to an environmentally sustainable future for Newark's port area. President Bloom is a phenomenal partner, is a partner with us on the Commission on Science, Innovation, Technology, has been involved in incredible amounts of economic development. His leadership tied to increasing enrollment, research funding, innovation at NJIT has been astounding. So we're pleased to have them presenting on the Smart Ports project. I'll hand it over to the mayor.
I have to excuse, I'm having technical difficulties here, so excuse my the video being off. I just got the sound to work. So, hello?
We can hear you. We can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. I was gonna first. I'm excited to be on with NJIT and Dr. Bloom, who has been very, very, very instrumental in making sure that this happened and pushed forward. So I'll start with him, pass it over to him, and let him begin, and jump in when he needs me.
Thank you, Mayor Baraka, an outstanding, longtime partner, strong advocate for the citizens of our city here in Newark. And let me also begin by thanking you, Brian, and you, Tim, and your colleagues at EDA, particularly as you've carried the governor's message about economic development, about growing the workforce, particularly the middle class and those who have been historically underrepresented in high and quality paying jobs in our state. And of course, the R&D that we are doing collectively. Let me start on the Smart Ports Regional Coalition Partnership by just, some of the macroeconomics. Seaports are well over 25% of the gross domestic product of this country, seaports. It's over $5 trillion on an annual basis that is brought into the US economy. Over 15 million jobs are related to seaports and freight transportation. And of course, I think it is truly emblematic of the great public-private partnerships, which is a lot of what we're going to be talking about in the Smart Ports Regional Coalition. So in particular, here in Newark, Newark is extremely fortunate to have the Port of Newark. And the Port of Newark is a little different than most ports. The property, the landlord of the Port of Newark is the city and the citizens of Newark. So ours, as goes the port, that gives us opportunity to grow jobs, to grow the economy of the greater Newark area, obviously the county of Essex and the state of New Jersey. So the port is critical. And one of the port partners that we'll be talking about very shortly is the Port Newark Container Terminal, which is Ports of America. But before I go there, I just want to talk a little bit about, we talked about the macroeconomics of the seaports. What I continue to realize and learn is how big the seaport of Newark is. And as we know, it's managed by the Port of Authority of New York and New Jersey, who are partners in this effort. It represents well over 200,000 direct jobs in the port and about 400,000 related jobs outside of the port. More than $80 billion in business income here in the city of, in the state of New Jersey, and $29 million in personal income. So it's a massive industry here in our city, in our region, in our state. So if you can go please to the first overhead that shows, thank you. So here are some of our early partners. Obviously the city of Newark, the mayor's business administrator, Eric Pennington, and Yolanda Williams have been critical in helping us put this coalition together. There is NJIT. I think you know the excellence here at NJIT, our faculty, our staff, our R&D. I mentioned a couple minutes ago the Port Newark Container Terminal that is led by Ports of America. Jim Pellicchio is the CEO there. We've been talking with Jim for months. We have an MOU to begin to continue to help the Port Newark Container Terminal expand. But now we need to accelerate it. If you are listening to this morning's news, they're talking about the backlog at seaports and how this is breaking the supply chain for not only manufacturing, whether it's health products, whether it's other consumer products, it is really stifling the growth of our economy because of the inability for the seaports to keep up with what is on the ships coming in to this country, the largest number of consumers in the world, of course. And here in Newark, as we know, the state and the feds have already made an investment in raising the Bayonne Bridge and dredging around the port of Newark. So now I happen to be in two of the largest ships ever docked at the terminal. And it was like a ballet watching these folks trying to move the containerized cargo. So again, another partner, Invest Newark, Burnell Hall and that group have already committed to helping us financially. The North Jersey Transportation Authority, led by Mary Amin, and other partners that will be added, other higher ed institutions, other private partners. NJIT is very fortunate to have many companies led by alums, including some at the PNCT, who are work in and around the port on clean energy, on smart transportation, et cetera. So the industry focus for this proposal is smart transportation. If you would go to the next slide, please. And again, what's the vision? The vision here in particular is to look at how transportation moves in the port, around the port, and distances from the port. And again, there's a lot about this supply chain. We know it's about the freight and the people who work in and around these industries. Most importantly, advanced technology and transportation are natural partners. We see it all around us in smart vehicles and digital economies that are growing. So what we're proposing and partnering particularly with PNCT and Ports of America is to begin to apply more and more of advanced technologies to accelerate the growth of the port, to accelerate the efficient and effective transportation of the freight. And most importantly, again, looking at creating jobs. The port jobs historically in this country, among some of the highest paying unionized jobs across the country, and again, particularly at the Port of Newark. So to do this, we are talking about creating a center to conduct our ongoing research and development, transportation innovation. We have seen how innovation has accelerated other industries, and this is an industry that is most desirable to accelerate the movement, the receipt and movement of freight. How do we commercialize the R&D, and how do we use it at the Port of Newark as both to accelerate, beta test, accelerate applications at other ports around the state of New Jersey. And again, to do this, we need a well-trained workforce. These are high quality jobs, technological background. And again, because as we know here in our city and in many, many other parts of the state, we have many underrepresented minorities and women who should have access to these jobs through job preparation, through training, through the talent management of folks. So that is about workforce. Through an entity we started, NJEDA, we are doing transformative training in tech industries. Data-driven optimization. The Yingwu College of Computing Science, the largest one in the state of New Jersey, partnering with Newark College of Engineering. This is all about data optimization. A smart port works with smart data, so we will help there. We're going to focus on principles of equity, social justice, and greening of the environment. Our goals next, please. So we have 4 goals. Sustainable, resilient, long-term economic growth, where that's what Build Back is about. Leveraging the investments that are significant investments already occurring in the port. We're going to integrate a systems approach for the continuous improvement job creation, workforce development. You have to have lifelong learning as these technologies continue to roll out. And as I mentioned already, establishing a center for R&D of smart freight transportation. We had to, the next one, please, we had to narrow this down to about 8 projects. We have about 30 projects as we begin the conversation with the city, with Ports of America, with the Port of New York and New Jersey, Port Authority. So we've narrowed it down. These are just some thoughts. We're looking for more thinking, more partnerships, but clearly master planning. The port is a constrained physical geographic place. We need to expand some of that. We've got we've got fields, brownfields around the port that need to be brought back online. We need to again adopt smart transportation and communication systems. As you look at ports, there's a lot of queuing up. We need to find that queuing up moves quickly. Those queues moves quickly. What's the smart equipment in handling freight? What are strategies and tactics for greening the environment and smart and green energy? The supply chain. There are the words, IT, AI, big data, and data analytics. That's how you move the supply chain. Job growth, job training. There's the center that I've talked about already. And we know the mayor continues to tell us about the Penn Station and how we need to move the citizens from the greater Newark area out to the port. So whether it's train or bus. And finally, we need to make better use of all of those properties that are around the port. So let me stop at this point. Let me again see if the mayor would like to make any closing comments, please, Mayor Baraka. And it's just an absolute pleasure working with the state, and I wish my colleagues who are in the other 3 projects success as well. And I really look forward to NJIT garnering much, as Tim Sullivan said crassly, more of the cash to come to the state of New Jersey. So thank you, and I'll turn it back to our good Mayor Ras Baraka.
Thank you, Dr. Bloom. That was excellent, and it is obviously always a pleasure working with NJIT, and I think it's this coalition between the City of Newark, NJIT, and the other partners is superb and very clear in terms of what it is that we're trying to accomplish. We have probably arguably the second largest seaport in the nation, and some of the projects that we want to engage in would expand actually the footprint of the port. Would also talk about making sure that we had begin to reduce the carbon footprint, that we create strategies and tactics for greening the environment, creating more jobs and opportunities for Newark residents and people in that region. As a matter of fact, creating access to the airport and access to the seaport for the residents in and around this area. I think this is an opportunity to leverage what Dr. Bloom said is probably the most wealthy and best asset the state has, and leverage that to create more jobs, green jobs, create opportunity around communication, transportation. At the same time, expand the port where it becomes not just the second largest seaport in the nation, but battling with Los Angeles as the busiest and largest seaport in this nation, but also doing that in a green way, in a more efficient way that includes the residents in this region and supports the state's growth.
Thank you so much, Mayor Baraka, and thank you, Dr. Bloom, for your vision around this. It's obviously, the port region is a huge asset for our economy. It's a strategic driver of everything that New Jersey is in terms of our value proposition. Excited to see this project. For folks that do have questions, again, we recommend, we're running a little bit behind, that you share those questions with those emails. We'll present them up again at the end of the presentation as well, but we'll direct those questions, any questions you have, directly back to the project teams. The second coalition that we want to talk about is our Aviation Innovation Coalition. It's ACEA, Atlantic County Economic Alliance, and the County of Atlantic County are leading this effort. With us this morning is Joel Bloom, president of ACEA. sorry, is Lauren Moore, president of ACEA. Lauren is an absolute tireless advocate and a dear friend. He is pushing hard to do all the right things in terms of diversifying and strengthening Atlantic County's economy, and the success that he and his team have seen, and really the county has seen in and around the airport, tied to what's going on with the offshore wind industry and operations and maintenance there, is just incredibly impressive, including already winning a USEDA I-6 grant for smart airport and aviation partnership program. And also pleased to say that Governor Murphy has already asked ACEA in Atlantic County to bid on behalf of the state for $1 million of the statewide planning grant funding. So we're very much behind this cluster and everything it has an opportunity to do in South Jersey and Atlantic County. I'll hand it over to Lauren now.
Brian, thank you. Thank you very much. I just want to take a second here real quick. I'm going to go through my slides, very quickly. I just want to thank EDA, NJEDA, for all the support that we are getting from the state of New Jersey. I can't thank you enough for recognizing the opportunity in the aviation cluster. We're working hard to bring, a new industry and new wealth to the state of New Jersey through aviation innovation. Yeah, we're a big aviation state, with our airports, but we're talking about aviation research and development and taking aviation to the next level. And you're going to hear about some of the projects that I think are going to help New Jersey and launch New Jersey, put us in a position, to create this new industry, here. And thank you very much. And yes, we are partnering with the County of Atlantic. The Atlantic County Economic Alliance, real quick, is a 501c3. We're a private nonprofit. We're responsible for the economic development, here in Atlantic County. But I will say, and you're going to hear this threaded through my comments, we think regionally. We very much believe in a regional economy, and we work very closely with the 4 counties across the southern part of the state. You're also going to hear me talk about how we're working with the Joint Base. You can go to the next slide for me, please. So we have, a pretty diverse, coalition membership here. And as your eyes kind of glance across, the logos of who we've brought on board to work with us here, we also work very closely with Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and we also work very closely with the South Jersey Transportation Authority, because of course, a lot of the work that we're doing is going to be centered around Atlantic City International Airport and the William J. Hughes FAA Technical Center. Now, while we can't list FAA as a coalition member, I will tell you they're a very, very close partner of ours in everything that we're doing to bring aviation research and development to the South Jersey region. And you'll see here the South Jersey Economic Development District. One of our key partners here is the South Jersey Economic Development District that represents the 4 southern counties: Cape May, Atlantic, Salem, and Cumberland. It is the only formal federal economic development district in the state of New Jersey. We work very closely with them. And I also, of course, have to give a call out to all of my board members, which you'll see on the board, up here on the slide. You can go to the next slide for me, please. So I want to get into, what our vision is. And what we're working on here is develop a very broad and inclusive aviation innovation cluster in South Jersey. And this is important here because we have very key institutional assets to build on. We heard from Dr. Bloom, and we heard from Mayor Baraka about the key assets they have at the Port of Newark. Having worked for the state of New Jersey for 20 years before I came back to Atlantic County, I'm very familiar with those assets, and they're great assets to build, an economic development strategy around. Well, that's what we've done with our aviation innovation cluster here in South Jersey. And our aviation innovation cluster isn't just focused around the FAA Tech Center and Atlantic City International Airport, but also with the airports in Cape May County and the Joint Base, as we triangulate up to, the Burlington County, area here. And we're building on these assets. The FAA has provided us with 58 acres to build an aviation research park. We've already built out the first 7 buildings here. And now we want to scale this out. We want to take full advantage, of the airport and the space and the sweet airspace that we have. You know, when we hear about the Port of New York and the unique assets, we have very sweet and unique airspace here in Atlantic County around Atlantic City Airport, because we bump up against congested airspace in Philly and in Newark. And here we are right smack in the middle of the Northeast, you know, the heart of the population, you know, of the country. Here, you can go to the next slide for me, please. This is our Aviation Innovation Hub. These are the unique assets that I spoke about. I'm going to kind of go, you know, move through this, and it kind of shows where we are, you know, because we're along the coast, and aviation testing and air corridors, the airspace they like is they like to do their aviation research and development over water, you know, so in the event that there are any issues, you know, here, but that's our first building at the bottom. Very proud of that. We have 300 tech jobs of about 12, 15 companies that we have as tenants, aviation companies that we have tenants in that building. You can go to the next slide for me, please. Okay, these are some of our, you know, again, our strong assets. I'm going to move through this. I talked a little bit, you know, about this of, you know, our Class C airspace, the tech center. We have 5,000 scientists and technicians that are located at the FAA that are helping us build this out. And of course, you know, our partners at the South Jersey Transportation Authority. Interestingly, Atlantic City Airport, 23% of capacity. So we have a lot of capacity here to, you know, implement and scale out aviation research, you know, here. You can go to the next slide for me, please. So I want to get into our projects, you know, and talk about our projects. Oh, this is real quick. This is our Aviation Innovation Hub. This is in the Economic Development Incentive Act of 2020. You know, thank you, Tim. Thank you, Brian. And thank you, state legislature and the governor's office. We now have an aviation innovation district, and we have a special set of incentives, you know, under the Emerge program to help attract and retain aviation companies into this aviation district. This kind of shows spatially where the aviation district is. It's located, it's actually in 3 municipalities, and it's in legislative district 2, and it's also a federal opportunity zone. We worked very closely with the governor's office back in March of 2018 to get this designated as a federal opportunity zone, and we've attracted private sector money to help us finance a second building in our aviation tech park, which is going to be very critical as we move, if we're successful, we move to matches in the second phase of this grant program. Next slide for me, please. Okay, now we're getting to the heart of the matter. We have 6 projects, and you know, like the mayor and Dr. Bloom were talking about, we have a lot of different projects here. What we've done is we've put a working group together. You know, just, you know, on the administrative side of this, of how we're working this, we've put a working group together for each of our 6 projects. This working group is literally 3 pages long of industry experts, regulatory experts, economic development experts that are going to help us flesh out the project scope on each of these. And I'm going to give you a brief summary of each of these 6 projects. The first project, and we heard a lot about smart technologies and using smart technologies, you know, to advance development of our critical institutional assets. Well, we're going to do that. The first one is a smart airport and aviation development and certification test center. This is a smart airport, right? We heard earlier about smart port and using this technology for more efficient operations. Well, we're proposing that as one of our projects here for a smart airport. We are already designated as a smart airport test bed. Our partners at SJTA have done that for us, and we've already done some research and development as a smart airport. And what's a smart airport? We start looking at automated de-icing, heated taxiways, automated autonomous ground vehicles, you know, here, customer service, reduce congestion, using the Internet of Things to make a more efficient use, you know, of these technologies at an airport. This is something that is very key to us, because when Brian, you know, talked earlier about the I-6 Challenge Grant, a $1.7 million grant we have, we built it around smart airport technologies. And we actually have an accelerator and have already pushed 15 cohorts of aviation research and development companies through our Smart Airport Accelerator that's run by Carol Matesic, who's on this call, at the Smart Airport and Aviation Partnership. I actually partner very closely with the National Institute of Aerospace. We work very closely with them to help build out all of our projects. The second one is uncrewed aerial system. This is drones and drone services and a drone port. We've been working on use cases. We all know how ubiquitous drones are becoming in everyday life. We're working on, we want to set up a drone port to build out local use cases. And this is very appropriate. So when a hurricane hits, we want to, we've already had some emergency test management cases where we're working with the FAA, the state police, to be able to fly drones into impacted areas, and working with the FAA to set up rules and regulations to be able to bring them in during, to help with supplies, help with reconnaissance and remote sensing. This is very important here. And to restore cell service, for example. So a drone port and local drone, and being able to put use cases together on how to integrate drones into the national air system is something that we want to scale out, and continue to working on. And the funding under this program will absolutely allow us to take it to the next level, so we can have a drone port with hubs and spokes off it to help advance the use of drones into everyday life. And also one of our use cases, and I heard this earlier, is we're working with a company that's going to use drones to be able to supply materials and goods out to the offshore wind construction. So that's something how there is some significant overlap with aviation and drone use cases with the offshore wind development. And we've been very mindful, to do that. And also too, we heard a little bit about this from the previous presenters, is about DEI, the diversity, equity, inclusion. We're putting together a whole separate plan to thread DEI and really embed it in all 6 of our projects. This is very, very important to us. The third project, planning and development, advanced air mobility. So this is interesting, right? I grew up kind of watching the Jetsons as a cartoon, but these are flying vehicles, vertical takeoff and landing. They're very quiet, they're battery operated, they're green, they have 0 carbon footprint. And we want to build a vertiport where we can test integrating these types of aircraft, the aircraft of the future, into the national airspace. And we're working to put together our plans and our project for an advanced air mobility vertiport. Our location and our geospatial features here put us in a unique position to really work closely with the regulators at the FAA to start integrating these aircraft. We've been approached by Uber Air and all of the manufacturers in advanced air mobility to come locate and do testing out at the FAA, at our aviation research tech park, and at South Jersey Transportation Authority at the airport. To support all these projects, we need highways in the sky. And so the fourth project here, planning and development of unmanned air systems and advanced air mobility airspace infrastructure. What that basically is that we want to be able to bring in and have airspace that's certified, with a certificate of authority to operate from the FAA, to be able to have highways in the sky so that these companies can come in and test. This airspace and airways in the sky are very, very important, for the testing for the projects of 1 through 3, above. And we want to, be able to make the application. These are very regulatory intense applications, but they're very important feature, here to add value to what we're doing, to attract these companies to the South Jersey region to do their testing. The fifth project of planning, development, and construction of the Smart Workforce Aviation Training Academy. This is something that we've been working on for a while, is that this is for maintenance and repair and overhaul of aircraft. We think we have an absolute unique opportunity here to build a training academy, not only to train technicians for traditional aircraft propulsion and power plants and airframes, but also aviation technology of the future, drones and advanced air mobility. We also want to do pilot testing here, which we think is very important. And also on this one, this is a project that we're working directly with the Joint Base. The U.S. Air Force, we've entered into a memorandum of understanding with them. We're working very closely with our partners at Atlantic Cape Community College and Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University to build a training academy of the future so that we can really take advantage and we heard about the workforce and how important it is to have a trained workforce. This is a part of what we want to do, to target and train our workforce. And then last but not least, this is also a very important project for us, Smart Aviation Workforce and Innovation Entrepreneurial Center located in Atlantic City. This is where we want to start to, work very closely with early stage companies to help them grow and get sticky and stay in the South Jersey region. We want to work with our partners at Stockton University at the beautiful new Atlantic City campus. And again, this is a part of working, to help with underserved, underrepresented, populations, to help them with businesses, build business development, entrepreneurship, and accelerate those efforts with micro grants and training to grow these companies. And this is something that is very, very important to us. We want to scale this, be able to have this scalable as we work on an innovation and entrepreneurial center in Atlantic City. That's all I have.
Thank you so much, Lauren. The slate of projects that you have listed here are just incredibly exciting, building on the work and the momentum you all already have, building on assets like the FAA Center and the Innovation Center that's there. So kudos, and this is a really strong opportunity to diversify that part of our state. Next up, we have Tony Calcado. He's the Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President for Strategic Planning and Operations at Rutgers. Rutgers has long been a driver of innovation in Jersey, and within Rutgers, Tony has been a leader in partnering with the private sector and in the strategic planning to support the university's long-term goals. And he's going to be talking about Rutgers' effort to lead our biomanufacturing coalition.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. And in the interest of time, I'm going to go quickly. I know we've got a short amount of time and still a lot of area to cover here. So it's always a pleasure working with the NJEDA, Brian, yourself, and Tim and staff. We've had a long and fruitful and productive relationship over the years. I'm happy to spend a few minutes here talking about what our proposal is with our partners. And how it dovetails so well into our translational research, which is bench to bedside, right? So we saw firsthand the shortcomings and vulnerabilities during the public health emergency, and we recognize how we need to strengthen those shortcomings in an equitable, diverse, and inclusive manner. Slide. In 2020 alone, the U.S. trade deficit with respect to pharmaceuticals was $86 billion. This alone is indicative of the change necessary to create the opportunity to achieve sustainable reshoring while pursuing advanced manufacturing methods that are less labor intensive, require a smaller footprint, drastically lowers our cost, improves quality, reduces waste, and in concert with sustainable practices, reducing our carbon footprint. All of this is critically important. Advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing uses platforms that are digitally designed or optimized, they're controlled, and they lead to reduced manufacturing costs by as much as 50%. And it enables 100% real-time quality assurance for us. Slide. So, and actually we could talk a little bit here about, we have many strengths in New Jersey that we can build on. And so we know that we need this in order to grow the U.S. economy, to aid in our job creation, to help convert pharmaceutical sectors. We know what the manufacturing and pharma industry is all about in New Jersey. And if, slide. So we have many strengths already in New Jersey that we can build on, especially in the life sciences and in the drug discovery space, right? Advanced pharmaceutical manufacturing was pioneered here in New Jersey, and we need to reclaim that mantle back as our own. And we're not starting from scratch. I mean, think about what Rutgers does on the Center on Structured Organic Particulate System at Rutgers, the world's largest academic-based research organization dedicated to modernizing pharmaceutical manufacturing, benefiting companies like J&J and Vertex and Eli Lilly, Pfizer, Merck. All of them have been involved with the center. Slide, please. So this planned development is a combined about 60,000 square foot facility, actually in 2 locations broken up to develop and operate manufacturing systems for active pharmaceutical ingredients, oral, solid dose products, and biotherapeutics. Will not only trigger activities in other industries, but it will lead to job creation. Buildings alone don't bring us strength. It's the people who work in those buildings. It's the scholarship. It's the research that lead to the medical discoveries and the new treatments that save lives. Just look at what's happened throughout this pandemic and where we wound up with therapeutics and drugs and vaccine, I should say. It's the diversity of those people bringing together diversity of thought, ideas, and innovation. So collectively, they strengthen and revitalize our economy while working for the greater good. Slide, please. So New Jersey's innovation and ecosystem is already strong and it continues to grow. It requires partnership, it requires resilience, and it requires sustainability. So we need to be prepared for the next pandemic. Making medicines locally creates manufacturing jobs. It creates clinical jobs, jobs required for regulatory requirements. It's a huge ecosystem that would be brought to fruition by investing in this proposal. So if medicines are made locally, they can be tested locally, clinical trials, for instance, which leads to faster FDA approval and better outcomes for all of our patients. Next slide. I've spoken on JEDI throughout my presentation when we look at equity, and I believe that Rutgers, and I believe and know that Rutgers believes we are better when the elements of justice, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness are embedded in our ideas, in our planning, and in the execution of any project, not just this one. So we're committed to these principles that you see on their screen as our normal course of action. So let me end there and thank you for the opportunity to present. We're excited about this opportunity and we look forward to much more dialogue as we move forward. Thanks, Brian.
Hey, thanks so much, Tony. Really appreciate your leadership at Rutgers, appreciate your leadership in this coalition. I know that you have a suite of partners. I see folks from Middlesex County, I see folks from the college, from NJIT on this call, and the kind of shared vision for biomanufacturing is quite strong across those different elements, whether it's workforce or otherwise, research or new centers like the one you described. Also, thank you for being short and sharp. Just as a flag, I know we have about 5 minutes left. My sense is we may go maybe 5 minutes over, just in case folks need to plan. Next up is Dr. Tabitha Dobbins. She's professor as well as interim vice president of research and the dean of the graduate school at Rowan. She's another phenomenal partner of ours. She's a member of the Commission on Science, Innovation, and Technology. In addition to all of that, she does incredible work at the intersection of material science, condensed matter physics, which I don't know what that means, but it sounds very impressive, in energy science, and we couldn't think of a better partner than Dr. Dobbins to be helping to lead the state's effort around clean energy, which is obviously a massive priority for the state and in a statewide effort. So with that, I'll hand it over to Dr. Dobbins.
Well, thank you, Brian. And I will try to put us back on track for a completion, maybe not in 5 minutes, but I'll try to be brief. And I just want to compliment all of the other clusters and wish you all the best as you develop your proposed activities. I'm representing here the Clean Energy Cluster slide, please. And the Clean Energy Cluster is comprised of several institutions. In particular, we want to thank NJEDA for the support of this cluster. Now, the Clean Energy Cluster is putting forward our Build Back Better Regional Challenge Grant in order to advance the governor's Clean Energy Master Plan. And within that landscape, we plan to use this opportunity to accelerate growth and transformation in the clean energy sector. So slide advance, please. And so in partnership with the other institutions and colleagues, some of whom are on the call, we have been meeting regularly, and it's truly a multi-institutional effort, along with some of our county colleges and training programs and other stakeholders. We plan to leverage existing assets set in motion by the governor's Clean Energy Master Plan. And these include early work done in developing the master plan laid out by the Board of Public Utilities Commissioner Bob Gorton, who highlighted the need to focus on areas, and some of those areas included offshore wind and energy storage, as well as others. Our focus will be within that scope, offshore wind and energy storage. We also will capitalize on the Wind Council Offshore Wind Master Plan, which set priorities for meeting the 7,500 gigawatt by 2035 target using wind energy. We'll capitalize on the New Jersey Windport and the Port of Paulsboro facility and installations that are there for marshaling and manufacturing. These facilities are slated to create 83,000 jobs by the year 2030. So we're excited to be partnering in those projects. We're also capitalizing on the Ocean Wind and the Atlantic Shores Offshore Wind Farm in parts of our projects. And so that's also exciting. And not to mention the excitement of the Atlantic Cape Community College planned offshore wind training for safety training facility. We will bring into our coalition federal and university-based research centers in the state of New Jersey, as well as we're focused on developing our infrastructure with business accelerators and business incubators, as well as private partners who will help deliver more than 300 EV charging stations across the state. Next slide, please. In total, we're pursuing a diverse set of projects. Again, we will have 3 to 8 projects that will include, each of our projects will fall under one of the umbrellas of research and testing centers and infrastructure development, business and incubation and acceleration, manufacturing and supply chain development, and workforce, importantly, workforce development and degree programs to help fulfill the need for a well-trained population to fill those 83,000 jobs by 2030. And then underpinning all of our activities is diversity, equity, and inclusion strategies to ensure that we're having the most diverse workforce that we can. And so thank you very much for your time and for the opportunity to present the Clean Energy Cluster's work.
Wow, you in fact did get us back on track, which is amazing. Thank you so much. We don't have time for questions, but for the 50+ attendees and many others who will watch this afterwards, we certainly want to continue to get your input and your ideas. I mentioned we would flash this up again. If you are interested in participating in one of the coalitions, being a private sector partner, you have an idea for a project, please do reach out through one of these email addresses, and our team here at NJEDA will connect you in with the right organizational leaders within each of the coalitions. There's so many great ideas and things we could be doing in each one of these 4 cluster areas. Our work over the next month is really to hone that down into a compelling set of projects and a cohesive vision across all of our partners that we can bring to the US EDA. Hopefully multiple of these projects are getting funded, but if not, we're obviously going to have a roadmap that we can look at from a state perspective to continue to invest in the long-term competitiveness and growth of our state. So with that, I will pause here. Thank you everyone for joining us this morning, and we look forward to your continued engagement over the coming weeks and months.
Thank you, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.